Pulling you in, punky gal.
No.
Hello.
Oh. All right. Hello. Okay. So anyhow, just as howdy, my name is Punky Gal, and I'm on Medicare and Medicaid for my SSI and SSDI, and it is a bitch to manage and stuff. They make it notoriously hard to understand. They make sure that you can only use your Medicare first, and if they don't pay, your Medicaid will pay. So they have structural hierarchies. And you can only go to certain doctors, certain offices to get your medication or get your prescriptions or get your health looked at. A plethora of other things go on, such as, oh, you need eye care? Well, we don't cover that.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually trying right now to get it covered. And he's adding that in, trying to get that so we have eye care and part of Medicare and Medicaid.
Yeah.
Eye care. I have a dental appointment coming up. They said you have a checkup. You should go in and get your schedule. I'm like, well, I have to wait and budget that because I've got other things going on, like eye appointments that need to be paid, and they don't cover contact.
Yeah.
So you have to pay for the contacts out yourself. People like me on SSI and SSDI, of course, we talked about, are living in forced poverty. We have no way, no means of getting upward mobility. There is actually a new plan coming out. It's called the SSI Restoration Act of 2021. It is by Sherrod Brown and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, and they're trying to make it so that you can get a 30% increase in disability. $2,000 will no longer be the limit. It'll be $10,000 in the first update and it will be the first update in over 30 years of the SSI plan. $399 a month, and it was added that you can get from friends and family, and work benefits. So you can just get $399 a month for working. They don't take away if you get help from friends and family, so that won't count against you. And they will remove the marriage ban, so you will not get canceled if you have marriage. And basically, yes, it's real, but you got to contact your senators and congressmen and tell them to do this because it's out there. But who knows if it will pass? You just got to tell everybody, because Elizabeth Warren, Jamal Bowman, and Sherrod Brown are going to be on this, and it's going to be helpful.
Yeah,
and another thing
absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm just looking over it briefly here. It's pretty good. Like it's not like
it's pretty big. It's not perfect, but it's better than what it's. You take the little wins. I mean, it will help. You take the little ones, as Lauren said, before.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing is, like, we have certain drug crisis problems. Like my progesterone isn't covered, and the way I take it is 200 milligrams. That is going to be a $300 bill a month if I do not use the little app GutRx. That brings it down to $80 a month because Medicare and Medicaid don't think that's necessary unless I do the synthetic. And the synthetic has been known to cause cancer and is more unsafe, but they will not pay for that natural one, the official natural progesterone, unless you do the synthetic one first. And it's like, you want me to get cancer before I do that? That's ludicrous. Then a company, I think their name is like Parigio or something, like based in like Minnesota, they have stopped making injectable estrogen. So that limits your pharmacies you can go to because only certain pharmacies carry other brands of injectable estrogens. So you have to go in. And when I was trying to get my estrogens covered at the beginning of the year, they had to mix it because I just switched to Medicaid too, getting off my parents' insurance because I was on disability. I could stay there because I'm 30. But I got off, and they still thought I was on my parents' pharmacy plan. So it wasn't going through. And so if you're on, like me, my antidepressants, I needed them. I was on my last 2 pills. And I needed to get my antidepressants funded. Oh, well, you need to call Medicare and Medicaid and get this all straightened out. So you call, AARP, whatever, their line.
Okay, and of course it's your problem to take care of. It's not like all of the navigation of the bureaucracy gets put onto the people who need the help.
Who need the help, who are disabled, who need the help. I was incredibly stressed out. Now, I'm going to plan to might go back to work when I feel confident enough, good enough, but they don't have enough job training. They don't have enough. They try to make you so you get punished for not working. This is all SSI disability in America is punishment for not working, flat out. Just flat out. It's a punishment. It's forced poverty. So if they put it on you and then you don't know what you're supposed to do. So you call in, oh, well, now we have to connect you with Medicare because they're the ones who have to get this changed too, but we need to be on the line. So your Part D insurance has to be on the line while they're on the line, and you have to do this at certain times of the day. And then I had to do this 3 different times because they didn't get it right the first time. I call a second time and I get my things. Oh, that's good. But then I have to do a third freaking time because, oh my God, if we didn't do it a third freaking time, it's just a mess. And doctors even, they don't know their medications they're heading out sometimes. Like with the estrogen shortage, right? Doctor didn't even know there was an estrogen shortage. And she's my doctor who does my antidepressants and my injectables. And I had to be educating her. I'm glad to be a translation for her, but it's like she does not understand that. And I had to inform her. She's like, oh, thank you for telling me. I didn't know that. That's going to make a lot of problems for my patients. I'm like, yeah, but didn't anybody, where's the connection? Aren't they going to like message you and say, hey, we no longer carry this drug, so you might need to find a different pharmacy? Where's the doctor telling their patients or the pharmacy themselves saying, your customer has this drug. Why don't we text them with their texting app because they can tell you when your drug's refilled? Why not text them and tell them and make it more, ease of use, basically, to let people know they don't have a drug so that when they don't go in there, because I don't drive. I'll admit it, and I don't drive. I take public transit, but sometimes your bus stop isn't close. So you have to walk, you have to go there. And if you have the time and the spoons to do it, great. But a lot of people don't have the time and the spoons to go from pharmacy to pharmacy to get drugs. They don't have the time to fight. Do that, and that's why they make it complicated, so you don't fight, so you don't stand up for your right. It's why there is, and the bureaucracies don't talk to each other. Medicare and Medicaid are not in line. They do not know what the other hand is doing.
Oh, absolutely. And even on individual hospital levels, like if you just have to go to like a different facility or a different clinic, or your pharmacy is trying to communicate with different facilities or clinics, like all of these different places have different systems within them for storing and keeping information and finding things out, and it gets very complicated very quickly.
Oh yeah, it gets so complicated that even some neurotypical people get confused if you're not well versed. I remember when I was signing up for SSI SSDI because I was planning to move and I didn't know if I could handle a job, and I just wanted to get more stuff, and I needed to get out because my parents were not very nice people. But I was going on there and they denied. You get denied every time on your first claim. That's a given. And then you have to get a lawyer, as we were talking about earlier. You have to get a lawyer, disability lawyer usually. And you have to fight it. And it takes months and months to prove that you have a quantitatable. You have to have all that medical records. Luckily, my mother, as much as she is abusive, saved all that stuff. And I got in finally, and it only took a second try. But there was a guy, and this story goes, he was a guy, he served in Iraq or Iran or somewhere in the Middle East in one of those horrible wars. He served, lost both his legs, and he went to go sign up for Medicare and Medicaid disability. He went to go sign up for SSI SSDI. The person at the sign-in office told him that he can work. He can be a Walmart greeter. He lost both of his legs for this country, and they told him he can be a Walmart greeter, and they denied him.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's insane. I get monthly changes. So I get monthly changes based on if I get any money in or whatever. And I only make $815 a month to live off of. That's how much I get to live off from SSI and SSDI. And I'm living in low-income housing, and they raised up my price of my low-income housing because they found out I made $800 instead of what I was making, because they have to change it every year and make sure that you're still working or whatever. And if you have any rent payments because they don't tell you, or the guy's gone and you can't get your thing, and you get late fees. So they're taxing poor people in the low-income place. Even in my low-income place, we have, like the laundry machines are 25-cent quarter machines. So you have to put $1 in to use it. It's like, that's not helpful. But I have to budget every single cent. I'm afraid I'm going to go homeless because of my healthcare and stuff, and just every little thing. I have panics about my budget because I'm in forced poverty now. And I can buy nice things, like a computer and stuff. I can buy things, but I cannot afford to have a slip up, because if I have a slip up, I could be on my ass out in the street because I will not have enough money for my rent or food. And when I got my food stamps just recently, I got the COVID relief, which was $400. So that's great. That will last me a while. But my maximum benefit I'm going to get after that now is $70 a month. That's all I'm going to get for food. And if you factor in healthcare costs, having to drive places or take Uber, luckily our public transit's free, so I take that. But they don't run all hours of the day like Uber would. It is just a shit show, and we are letting our disabled people fall behind. No one is really speaking up for us because they think that we can live in poverty because we didn't work. It's a punishment for not working. That's the caveat of capitalism is you didn't work, so you get punished, and it sucks,
Yeah.
And
a lot of people who don't butt up against these systems or experience these systems just kind of tend to assume that like our country is doing a good job with it and everything's fine, and it's hard, but like it's doable, right? And like yo, it is so much worse than what most people think it is.
It's one banana, Michael. How much could it cost? $10?
Exactly.
But I've had people tell me that, oh, you're lazy because you're on the system. You're lazy, and we're screwing the system. Why should I pay taxes so that people don't have to work? Why should I pay more taxes when these poor people, when they don't realize it's the rich people who are not paying their taxes and screwing over the system?
100%. It's something I talk about on stream a lot. The IRS released a report like several months ago about how the rich they estimate that the wealthiest like 1% of Americans underpay their taxes by about 20%, which translates to hundreds of billions of dollars every year.
Back in my hometown, I had this hairdresser, and she was saying that I'm not a bad person because I'm on SSI, but there are people scamming the system. No one would willfully be on SSI to scam the system because you don't make enough money to live.
Yeah, no, like what scam? What scam are you running?
Yeah, no one goes on this thing to say I'm going to get rich, because you cannot get rich on fucking disability. You stay in forced poverty, and if I go on $2,000 or over, they cut my funding for the month until I go under, and that includes my health care, that includes everything. And if I get sick during that time, if I go over, it sucks. Now, I had so what you have to do, and I don't endorse this, but you can do this. It's under the table money. It's not legal, but you take money out, you store it in a bag, and then, that's what some people have to do to save money because they have to hide it. And so they work with cash only, and that's illegal. But they have to do what they have to do to save money so that they can still get money and still save. Because I am not allowed to save. There's an ABLE account, but on further look of those ABLE accounts, they don't necessarily work fully because they're also, some of those ABLE accounts are like investing in stocks, if I recall correctly. It's not actually you could save money. They put your money in stocks.
And aren't the ABLE accounts only available if you're like under 26?
If you had a disability before 26. So if you can clarify, like for me, my autism, I'm on the autistic spectrum, I have Asperger's. So I'm smart, and that's just spoons and issue stuff. But, if I were to apply for that, I could. But the way they invest it instead of actually making it be like a savings account, it's more of an investment account. So your things go up and you can get it later. There are things like disability, disability clauses for death. So I have so I get a disability trust for my parents. But then you have to have a payee because you don't get that yourself. So my brother is my payee, which me and him don't really like each other. So now, when my parents are long gone and dead, yippee skippy, I get to go to the person I don't like and I beg for some money.
Right.
Because that's the way it works. And it goes in, there's a disability right, just like Britney Spears and her conservatorship. It all goes back. It's all connected. And the trans care and the disability, it's all connected. And if we just had Medicare for all, those would take a big chunk out of the things trans people, disabled people, people of color, everybody would face if we just had free healthcare.
Yeah.
It would just be so much more easier and streamlined, but no one wants to streamline it.
And it wouldn't solve like all problems everywhere, but like you said, like it contributes so much to your mental
health.
Mental health. It is suffering. It contributes to suffering. It's just mental suffering that we seem to be like okay with inflicting on other people, but it shouldn't be accepted. And that suffering does translate to tangibly physical ailments for a lot of people.
Yeah, and there's like so much able, and you can't drive. Well, sorry, then we're not going to come pick you up and hang out because you can't drive. And it's all goes together. And it's like I said, they are punishing us because we can't work. It's not because we're not smart enough. It's because we can't work. And I would love to work, but when you go into work, they don't want to be accommodating. I know that they don't want to teach you. They don't want to train you right. I was in a job. I was working at a company called Patagonia. Now, Patagonia was an okay company, except they do things that I'll get into here in a minute that are kind of skippy. But they treated me like I was an invalid. and they put me on the same job. They'd only give me an hour's work because, hey, you're on disability and we don't want to cut your disability down. So we're going to give you 2 hours of work a week. And they gave me the jobs that nobody else wanted to do because I was disabled and I was only there for 2 hours. So why don't I give you the crap job? So we all, the normal employees who work every day, get the good jobs, and they weren't very accommodating. They were nice, but they weren't very accommodating. I made a joke on my Facebook. I added them, which was the first mistake you do. You don't add your colleagues on Facebook, but I did. I made a joke about, how working in retail is shitty, and they got mad at me for it. But in Patagonia, a trade secret is you can't donate Patagonia goods to your local thrift shop because it will go back to Patagonia. They will sell it back to Patagonia to go to their thrift shops, which update the price to their thrift shop, which is like, Patagonia things are pricey. It's like $90 for a coat.
Mm-hmm.
Patagonia will then say, okay, well, you can't do this. We can't resell. There can't be any competition. Only our outlet can be in the city. If you're in the city and selling Patagonia goods, you can't do that. You have to go out of city limits to do it to reduce competition. If you get your clothing and send it, they'll take it right back to Patagonia and say, hey, go put it in warmwear. And warmwear is their version of a thrift store, but it's like a hipstery thrift store. So it's $30 for a clothing when an item could have been 10 because they boost it up because it's their version of their thrift store that goes in-house. And it's just, and those are nice clothes, but people can't afford it. And it's like, oh. And when I was there, we did a lot of stuff to help the environment, but it was more eco-fascism. And it all comes back to, I was there just to get out, to socialize. I wasn't there. If I didn't have to socialize, I did it mainly for socializing because as a disabled person, I'm lonely if I don't.
Right.
I did it mainly for socialism, or socialization and socialism, but no, socialization.
Yeah, somebody in chat is saying at my college, people called them Patagucci.
Yep, it is Patagucci. That's the nickname, Patagucci. They are correct. That was our nickname for him, is Patagucci. That is the correct term. Patagucci is just, they're lovely clothing if you can afford them, but otherwise they're just not worth it. And the thing is, we do not have our shit together when it comes to disabled people. Like I said, it's forced poverty, and it's even worse when you know that you have to get a lawyer, you have to have all these medical records. And like I said, they make it incredibly hard because they want you to give up. They want you to give up. Let me think about that.
Yeah, no, like the system is designed to wear you down until you just like shrug your shoulders and just go, this is as good as I'm gonna get.
Yeah, so either you force homelessness or you go in to work. And then you're in work. And if you have a mental break because you're in your work, let's say you need a mental health day because you were stressed out and you need a mental health day. Well, they might not give you the sick days you need. So you're not getting your stuff. And eventually, you're just out of work because you took too many mental health days. Well, I couldn't afford my medications. They were too expensive with the healthcare plan you gave me. There wasn't free medication, or they didn't cover it, or they promised you didn't have it. In my hometown, I was lucky that I got hormones, but to get healthcare for my trans care, I had to go to another city. That was 2 hours away in Montana. And that's a long drive when you don't drive. Luckily, I have my found family, my new family that I found through Reddit. They came and got me, and then we've been best friends ever since, and it works. But not everyone has lifelines. Right. And they just recently made a law in place that is going to impact trans people even more. To get your name changed or on your driver's license changed used to be streamlined. You could do that without having surgery confirmation. Now you need it. Gia-Forte put that in, and the ACLU luckily is fighting that now. But if you want your application changed, nope, got to get that surgery. Luckily, I'm grandfathered in, and I have a court order and everything. I got it done in one day because I didn't need to do my name change. I got helped by a legal friend, so it was really easy. But not everyone has those luck. I got luck in some places. Not everyone has those, and that's a problem. But
yeah, for so many people, their ability to navigate these systems and be able to deal with the bullshit is just it comes down to luck. Like, are you lucky enough to have the money to do it? Are you lucky enough to have the connections that would allow you to do it?
The connections, the time,
the
patience, the mental health to do it, because these things can get really frustrating. I know that when I was going there, I'd get really upset and cry and say, well, how am I supposed to afford this? Another thing, and I forgot to mention this, is when you're on Medicare, you can't get other insurance except for Part D. So right now, I have to go to a Part D plan if I want anything there, or Part C. I cannot get Medicare and go get dental insurance right now. I could, but it would be more out of pocket and more expensive. But they say if you're in the marketplace, you can't get any more insurance from the marketplace. You have to go buy it yourself. You can't get it from the Affordable Care Act marketplace. So that you're paying full price for insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just...
It's a lot. It is a system that is designed... It is designed to not be used. That, like, yes. By design, it is meant to discourage people from using it.
To a T. And the thing is about all this is that not only is it like that, but when you're calling and you're like, I have questions, and I say, I need healthcare insurance. Well, they can't sell you insurance. Other companies can't even sell you insurance. That's illegal. If they were trying to get you to do an insurance plan while you're on Medicare, Medicaid, oh, that's illegal. They can't do that. And I'm like, well, I called them. I'm trying to look for a plan that I can do with all these things so I can get my dental appointment. So I get a root canal done because I had a massive root canal that needed to be fixed. Otherwise, I might lose a tooth. And it's wild. How can we let this go on? How can people just sit by and say that this is easy to let people, when you see people struggle, how can you live with yourself? Have they no decency, as the saying goes? Can they not see that we are struggling? It's a lack of empathy on their part, fully and thoroughly. And it doesn't affect senators who are on the Republican side because they're rich and they don't care. A lot of people don't experience it until they get there and then their minds change. But some people think that we don't need it. It's fine. You can afford it. You can just budget. Oh, you can have money for a rainy day. So why is it poor people have to be morally responsible and not the rich people who aren't paying their frickin' taxes?
Right. Exactly.
It's just...
It is the burden of acting in a moral way is a cost that the rich pass to the poor. Yes. And then punish them whenever they don't live up to unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, I liken it to the working class and poor class get to live with the scraps. We get to the disabled get to live off the crumbs that the rich people drop, and we're supposed to take it because we were just so good. We gave you money. You should be happy. Why are you complaining? Why are you trying to fight the system? You should like what you got. It could be much worse. It's not that bad. Come on now, put a smile on and do this. And it's like, it is bad. It's forced poverty. I'm stuck here. There are days that I'm thinking, oh, I can go to work, and then I flip-flop because I really do want to go back to work after I go try to get my top surgery done. But it's like right now I'm living the life of Riley, and it's hard to get off and hard to get on. They make it so that if you get off, you won't have any saving grace period. They give you like 90 days, I think, if you do the Right to Work program. But the Right to Work program actually makes it so that you have to go to their jobs that they pick for you. It's only in their certain areas. Mm-hmm. And those programs can decide to pay you pennies on the dime just to keep it so that you can keep your disability.
Yeah.
Or you can get grants to do your own work. But if they don't see that your work is meaningful, because I'm an artist, I paint and draw for a living. That's what I went to college for. I'm an artist, so
right.
You did the art. Yeah. But regardless, it's like, you want to do that? Well, we don't really think we should loan you money to create that business because we don't think it's good enough. You want to do sex work? Oh, definitely not. We don't think that you should be doing that. But hey, if that's something you can do, go for it. No, we're going to punish that. It's just, they punish every little thing they can and try to keep you bogged down in poverty and keep your morality low just so that you can't move forward. Because that's what they want. That's what the system is. And it's part of healthcare. Healthcare isn't going to fix everything. There needs to be more done, but it can take a big chunk of what is the problem for many people and why people go homeless because they can't afford healthcare or they can't get the help they need.
Right.
And and then they make it none of this is complicated. When I went to go get my Orky done, I went in and I had my gender change already. It was a court ordered gender change. So everything on my application, except for my birth certificate, was changed. That was the last thing I needed. And then Giaforte changed it, so it got all screwed. But I'm safe now because I have my surgery done, so it doesn't really matter, because my Orky was done. But for other people, it's gonna suck. When I went in to get it done, they couldn't do the surgery because I wasn't technically a man. They couldn't pay because I wasn't technically a man anymore. My thing's already said female.
That's
and that
so
surgery's
fucked.
only for, and Medicaid wouldn't pay for it because it said it's female. And they said, oh, we just got the code wrong. We have to enter a special code. But they put it all on me. I have to do the work. I have to call Blue. I have to call my clinic, my doctor that did the surgery. I have to do this. And it's only to find out that it was only a code slip up that they needed to do on their end because they didn't know how to do the code.
Yeah, and this is something that I think Laura was talking about earlier. For people who are confused in chat, insurance companies use codes, and if they make the input wrong, then there's like no way you can know that on your end, but you still have to jump through all the hoops to like double check every other avenue.
And you have to double check and triple check to see if you're covered.
Yeah, you have to, like Laura was saying, you have to turn into essentially like a special investigator on your own behalf to navigate the entire system and double check other people's work.
Oh yeah, not only that, but for trans people, we have a problem called the Wpass that isn't updated every year and hasn't been changed since that time. There's a new study out that just recently got done that says that we don't need to stop hormones to get surgery. My latest surgeon was like, well, you're gonna have to stop your hormones for 6 weeks if you want a BA. That has been done by Mount Sinai, that it's been changed and stopped. You don't have to do that. But that study hasn't really been changed since the age because no one wants to study it. So you have to go follow the Wpass standards, which means letters. Letters cost money because you need to go to, what else? A doctor, a mental health clinic, a psychologist, a psychiatrist to get letters. And that's extra money out of your thing for a one letter. And a lot of doctors, they don't want to see you. Or I mean, a lot of healthcare providers, mental health, don't want to see you for one session. They are like, I don't typically take people more for one session. I need more than one session to see you. I don't really think you have dysphoria if your dysphoria isn't to a T to get that damn letter so that I can go get my nuts chopped off or I can go get, boobs.
Well, and that's the other thing. Like, depending on the doctor you get, your experience can be completely different. You can go into the first doctor and they'll be like, "Oh, yep, okay, here's your letter." Totally easy. Your next doctor can just be like, I don't even think like transgender people are like really a thing.
Exactly, and that is so true.
And it depends. Like, there's like a whole spectrum from like, yeah, totally understand it's all bureaucratic nonsense to like outright doesn't think trans people should exist.
Oh yeah, I was in a rural Montana before I moved to my big city, which is like 28% queer population for a town of 200,000, so it's pretty queer. Really, it's really queer. Anyhow, when I was in my small town, the doctor didn't really know about trans people, and I just said, do informed consent. Give me these drugs, do this. I can manage my own blood tests. It will be okay if you give me the blood test. She didn't feel comfortable. She just sent me to this clinic called Blue Mountain, where she was going to send me. I'm like, great. So they give me a recommendation. I call in to get a recommendation in the clinic to set up an appointment. I missed the cutoff because that is such a populated clinic in Montana. They had a cutoff and I missed it. They weren't taking any new patients.
Oh my
gosh. So then I look on Reddit and I ask if Montana's Planned Parenthood does informed consent. And indeed they do.
Mm-hmm.
So I got in there, met my found family that way. She drove me up. I got my informed consent, did my thing. And under a half hour for that thing, did a little bit of affirmative gender, but under an hour, got my hormones, and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people don't have that luxury, especially if they don't have lucky things and people to drive, because my parents would not drive me. I was going to have to take the bus, which the bus system in Montana is not a bus system. It's the Greyhound, and it takes 5 or more hours to get to a town that is 2 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
It's ludicrous. So now I'm not with Planned Parenthood anymore. I finally got into Blue Mountain, and I might eventually change from there too, because it's not necessarily the best, but it is okay. But when I was at Planned Parenthood, this doctor was just fresh off the boat when it came to trans people. Didn't know what she was doing. And eventually she retired and they got a new person, but they went through cycled help. And basically, as we always say in the trans community, you have to be your own advocate and teach them because they don't know. They don't know. And, like I said, trying to get progesterone covered was a bitch, but I got everything and it's looking good now. But it's like, if you don't get the right amount of doctor and the right doctor who knows, you will get screwed and then you will have to do things.
Mm-hmm.
That's why a lot of people do, and I don't necessarily recommend this, but a lot of people self-medicate for that reason. They go to places like other pharmacies online. There's a place called like a taco pharmacy that does, things for trans people.
Mm-hmm.
And, but it's just, it's a whole bunch of bullshit how the poor, disabled, working class, and trans people and LGBT people in general get screwed. Like with PrEP stuff, they don't want to cover PrEP or they think it's not necessary. And it's just all this leads into one thing. They don't care about us, and as long as they only care about profit, that's the only thing that matters, because profits matter more than people.
Exactly. And like one of the big reasons on top of all of this, especially when it comes to trans healthcare, because I also got my hormones through informed consent, and I felt extremely lucky to have a clinic like that in my area. But one of the things is there's not that much profit in trans healthcare, right? Like
Right.
we're such a small community that a lot of people and a lot of specifically a lot of insurance companies don't really care that much if their method of dealing with trans people places an undue burden upon the trans patients. They don't really care that much because there's not much money in their trans patients, and a lot of us will take what we can get, as opposed to like like heart disease or like diabetes, where like a lot of health insurance carriers prioritize things like that because the vast majority of their patients are going to need to get that kind of coverage, and so they make it as easy as possible for those mainstream issues. But when it comes to trans healthcare, there's just not that much money in us.
Exactly, and that's why the company, I think, like I said earlier, Parigio, stopped making it, because they knew that the majority of their people taking injectable estrogen was primarily trans people. There are elderly people who are going through menopause who need it, but that is primarily the people who do that. And what they do is now they stop it. They don't think it's necessary, so we're going to take it. There's doctors out there who go spironolactone and estrogen. Well, those aren't the prescribed pills for you. That's how the way informed consent works sometimes. The label is, oh, this person has pimples and has hot flashes, we'll give them estrogen. That's the way some informed consent works. But some doctors will say, well, you're not using it as its intended use. And speaking on spironolactone, it is an okay AA, but it isn't the best, and sometimes can reduce boob growth. But because the Wpass in America says that, we get stuck with what we get with. They don't like the powers method per se necessarily, and there's tons of things that we could be studying and get help with trans care, but we are set on the back burner, having to listen to an organization that their board hasn't updated. And the last time the board or the rules for Wpass, the method that some doctors don't follow to a T, they use other older methods of the Wpass, hasn't been updated since 2012. It has been 9 years.
Yeah,
that's a long time in medical years to not have any new studies and things done. And they're not updating this every year and getting a new board every year. They should, because people get complacent and they think it's fine. I was dealing with this with my my therapist. We had a discussion. She loves the Wpass because it does a really good job. I had to actually share one of the panels you were on Prime K's with you're on Amazon Lily, where you're talking about that, because she wouldn't listen. That the Wpass is good, but it could be better. It doesn't necessarily do what it's intended to do, especially when it isn't updated. She says that, oh, trans people are on the panel, they're the ones who control it. I'm like, but they get complacent, just like you. You're old, you're a boomer, you're complacent, so you don't feel the need to change anything because you are fine. You got yours, so you're complacent and think the healthcare system is good. Yeah, you did live through the 80s, and yeah, that was bad back in the 80s. We didn't have healthcare, but that doesn't mean we should stop when it gets good. You should always try to improve and go for the further you can. Take your wins, but never stop improving, because if you get complacent, they will throw the rug from under us. They're doing it now. We saw how they're doing with all these bills they put out last year, not to doom or anything, but we got complacent, thought, hey, things are going up. And then when the moment we get comfy, they try to take us down. And so you always got to stand on your toes and be ready, because, you never know. But as for the healthcare, we got to go. We got to fight. Please join that Discord, because it is a thing that's going to help you. It's going to help your family. It's going to help your grandma and grandpa. It's going to help everybody, because somebody who is struggling from healthcare. And you are lying if you say you don't, because everyone is struggling from healthcare in some way or another, whether it's eye care, whether it's healthcare. And for like me, I have nystagmus, so my eyes move uncontrollably back and forth. So I have to take specialized contacts and glasses. These are medical necessary things. I'm going to have to spend $80 for contacts plus an $80 eye exam too, because they won't cover that part of the eye exam. So I'm going to be spending that plus however much my contacts will be just to get eye care, because Medicaid doesn't want to pay in Montana for that. Because Medicaid is better in some ways than Medicare, because they cover some things, but only in certain clinics, only to a certain degree, and only certain procedures. And they treat you like you have to beg for healthcare. Please, I really need teeth cleaning, sir. I need a teeth cleaning. Please, can I have some more? it's ludicrous. And if we don't do something now, it will never get done, and it will be the downfall of society. Between that and climate change, I don't know which is going to kill us first. Not to be doom about it, but either way, something is going to give in America, and one of these things has to be fixed sooner than the other.
Yeah, we cannot sustain the amount of healthcare cost growth.
Exactly. It is just, the rich people can. Mm-hmm. They got theirs. They're going to space. They could care less about whatever's going on here on Earth. They got their escape plan.
True.
So they don't care about us. They're just going to go to space, and we can just fuck off. They've proven that. They're doing that. They're going to take all their rich friends on Virgin Galactic, and we'll just sit here and rot while the burner lights on fire, and we're sighing of healthcare needs because we can't afford it. Yeah, they don't want to pay more.
You heard about the space hotel that they're trying to build in like the next 5 years?
Oh yeah,
they're just literally building the resort from Elysium up in space. That's literally what they're doing.
They're gonna make the Wincom space station from Zenith, the girl of the 21st century, but for rich people. And we peons are not going to go there unless we become the help and grovel for the food and become the footstool so that they can put their nice Gucci shoes on top of our ass.
Yep.
It's stupid. But we can do something now. We can speak to our senators. We can fight. If you have the ability and the means to, and the spoons or spools or whatever energy means you form to use, you have the ability to do it because we have the power. They don't realize they are few. We are many. We can stand up and we can reform the system. Join the Discord. Get involved. Get active. You can do it. And if they don't want to listen, try running for local office. You have the power to do that. It's hard, but you can do it. That's all I can say is we have the power.
Yep.
We can take down these people. They don't want to hear it. We have a voice. And if the rich people want to try to take us down, go for it. We're ready for that fight. Because you will not take down these poor people who are already beaten down. I've been beaten down so many times in life, I couldn't even count it on one hand. But I will fight, and we will fight, and we can do this together because it's not me, it's us.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. That was my spiel.
Absolutely. It was a beautiful, beautiful spiel. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story. It was really, I think powerful.
Yeah. Oh, before I go, I actually have one more. So my brother, he has bad mental problems. This is a good thing. He's got ankylosing spondylitis. So he's on this drug called Humira. Now, I don't know if you know what Humira is. It weakens your immune system and treats things like psoriasis and ankylosing spondylitis, which is fusing of the spine. He could not move his spine or head until he got this drug.
Oh, my God.
He was having bad depression, bad everything. Because of that, he was in a terrible mood, and he was jealous of his boss who could play guitar, it seems like. Because he could play guitar, and why is my boss getting all the crowd looks? Because he didn't know how the system works, that your boss is supposed to get the crowds and you're not because you're the peon, he's the boss. Well, eventually he got blackballed from that corporation for using references because he was so angry or depressed and sad and had that bad outlook. That company can never be used on resumes. Well, eventually he finds a company called Helix, and he was doing that very well and nice and very good, and everything was working for him until he had some mental strikes. So he went to therapy, got better, was working at Helix, then moved to a bigger city. But he didn't get another therapist to go with that. And he was finally off his parents' insurance on his own. Well, he thought he could quit his job and go get into Google just like that, really quickly, like a snap of his fingers, just pass the test to get in because he's a coder. He could get in and do that. Turns out that didn't happen, and he moved back, and now he's back with parents, and he doesn't have insurance because he was on the company's insurance, because he got off it right before his 27th birthday. He had the insurance. He was on his parents. And he got off because he was in a company and doing it. And now he's back home, no insurance. And he's on this like co-payment plan that helps him afford his Humira. But without that, he would not be able to afford his drugs and medication properly. That Humira is like $1,000 without this thing. But this AbbVie program helps him get it. But he needs it to be able to work and function. Otherwise, his back will freeze. And if he gets sick, like with a cold or COVID, he has to stop taking that medication because it weakens your immune system, and so he has to stop taking it. And when he stops taking it, his neck will freeze, his back muscles spaz up, and he just can't move his neck, and he has to turn his whole body instead of his neck. With this drug, it helps him. But goddamn, if he didn't kind of work himself into a hole, and he's not a very nice person, so I feel bad for him, but he's an asshole. But regardless, that's his story, and that's why the healthcare system helps doesn't help anybody unless we get Medicare for all that can help pay for our drugs and make sure that we can cover all drugs, not the ones that deemed medically necessary, but all drugs. Because if we do get Medicare for all, which that would be the thing, then we have to push for getting medically necessary drugs out of there and say all drugs need to be covered, because goddamn knows they're going to try to fight progesterone. They'll try to fight ketamine. They'll try to fight acid. They'll try to fight ecstasy for, PTSD, which I have. We're barely getting by with medical marijuana. That's the turning point there. But people need options, and we need to help fight for that. And you can do that, like I said, by joining the Discord and standing up for your right to fight.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me on and giving me the time to run my mouth.
Thank you for coming on and sharing your story. I really do appreciate it.
Bye-bye now.
Bye. All right. Thank you so much to Punky Gal for coming on to share that story. That was really, really interesting. And it's true. Like, all of those struggles, like as a trans person in the United States, as somebody who has to navigate the systems and the medical establishment and the healthcare system, all of that is 100% accurate. They do not make it easy, and it is difficult on purpose, and it is built to exclude people from the healthcare system as much as possible, unless they are able to profit off of people in said system. And I do want to say again, please do join the Medicare for All Discord. Use the link that just got posted in chat to join up. It is really, really important that you click that link and join. You will be able to get involved in the fight for Medicare for All, both on state and national levels. And it is really, really, really important that we get as many people as possible into this fight. Only by having as many people as possible, only by having many of us working together, will we be able to achieve our goal and make sure that we have decommodified healthcare in the United States. Because guess what? It doesn't have to be terrible. It doesn't have to be a bureaucratic nightmare. It doesn't have to be this system that punishes people for being sick or being poor. We don't have to live in a system that does that. We just do it right now so that companies can profit off of it. What are my pronouns? I use she, her. Thank you for asking. We need to stop sitting and suffering. Exactly. Suffering in silence only serves the people who profit off of our suffering. So don't suffer in silence. Suffer loudly and fight loudly. And we'll fight like hell until we get healthcare. How about that? Thank you very much, Rhodes. Do we have a choice? Some people like to suffer in silence, but I'd argue that we don't have a choice. We need to push, and we need to keep pushing until we get what we want and what we need.